Now we got Guy Fisher next. Motown Mafia podcast. Guy Fisher, take one.
What's happening, family? It is your man, CRB Jr., Cordero Brown Jr. here at Motown Mafia Podcast, a Big Boss Filmworks production. To my side is the man,
Big Lou of Big Boss Filmworks.
Big Lou, the other half of this thing to make this train keep going. He keeps the trains on time. Everything good, fam?
Content creator extraordinaire at your service.
At your service, so you people need to holler at him. He'll give you later on in the show some of his contact information.
Oh yeah, but everything's good,
so you can
though.
Get your game on track. Got your wig pushed back. Yeah, man. So again, as we do here at Big Boss, always paying tribute to the people who in this street culture, and now this street culture has become mainstream pop culture.
Absolutely.
To make sure that they get their roses, especially those who are still here to get their roses. Because I'm old enough to remember, in third grade when they put Dad and Eddie's picture on the front page of the newspapers of drug dealers living lap of luxury and the men who sell H and all that stuff.
Right.
And how these people were now so villainized. And then later came the crack era, and we know the devastation that put on the community, and people didn't have it in context.
Mm-hmm.
And then definitely the urban dealer, the urban hustler was villainized. And now, lo and behold, though, all the people who make hit records talk about being of that ilk.
Right.
The most popular TV shows are about that.
Yeah.
All of the entertainers and celebrities and high-profile people want to be in the company of these kind of men.
Definitely. Like, let's say Mike Epps.
Let's say Mike Epps, for instance, and that's what we're going to talk about. Shout out to the brother Mike Epps. Those who do not know the story, we did have had some history with Mike Epps way back in 1995. Dad owned a nightclub called the Cotillion Club on Puritan. And shout out to Money Walt, shout out to Big J Welch, two of my homeboys out of New York. They were doing some promotions, and Russell Simmons had his Def Comedy Jam thing going.
Mm-hmm.
They had hooked up with one of their homeboys, a guy named Big Ed, not Big Hansard out of Detroit, but a guy we call Big Ed, who's up from the Bronx. He was cool with my people, Money Walt and Jay. He had a hot nightclub in New York called Indigo Blues. And on Thursday nights, Ed was bringing in all these comedians. Mm. Ed ended up having some legal troubles. And as Ed's legal troubles was coming, Pops had just bought the club. And, he's always been a big fan of live entertainment, theater and all of this. And so when I cut into Pops and I said, my people, Dad, we can go. Actually, he kept saying, Junior, we need to start bringing in some acts. And finally, as me and Walt and Jay got our thing kind of in conversation, I was like, actually, I got a crew in New York that can pull this off. And Walt and Jay came to town. We sat down with Pops. And shit, Pops, and at the time, this is the middle, my old man was in the middle of his Pakistani run. Uh-oh. So it was raining money for us.
Oh, yeah.
Fat Frank doing $10,000 a day, Eddie doing $10,000 a day, C and the rest of the family doing their thing. It was just
y'all had the Cotton Club.
Yeah, it was for real. It was Detroit's version of the Cotton Club. So anyway, one of the first groups of comedians we brought in, and on that list would be we the first people to bring in Cheryl Underwood to Detroit, first people to bring T.K. Kirkland to Detroit, first people to bring J.B. Smoove to Detroit. What's Darnell's last name? It's not Small.
I thought it was Small. I was going to say Smalls.
It is. Darnell Smalls. So many of the biggest comedians now in the game, they got their first time. Like, so for instance,
Caesar. My man Caesar. What's his name? What's his name? J.B. Smoove. Yeah.
J.B. Smoove.
Smoove. Yeah.
I mean, and the thing was, so they would be sometimes on the BET comedy show with the Russell Simmons thing, and Russell had them, and shout out to the Big G, Russell Simmons. Russell helped us out in our apparel business early on, so this is a real stand-up guy also. But Russell was putting them on buses and shit like that.
Yeah.
We're flying them in first class, putting them up in the Marriott, giving them expense money. Oh, anyway, My job was as part of this thing would be after Walton, those guys that booked the comedians. I would always end up being the one that would have to go to the airport and pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what was anyway. And I'm driving my sister's Benz this particular day, and I'm picking up this guy, and I don't know him from Adam's House Cat. He's just another New Yorker or comedian, because actually Mike Epps is from Indiana, but he was working that New York scene. I pick up this guy, Mike Epps. It's nice enough brother. We kick it, yada 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 yada. He does his show. He did 2 shows. I think, I bet his ticket's gone up a lot. I think we paid him back then, maybe for the 2 shows, $3,000-$4,000.
Okay,
so like
$1,500,
$2,000 a show, which was like above what those guys were making at that time.
Right.
And we kicked it, and so I'm taking him back to his hotel room, and he's like, I know who y'all are. And I'm like, what you talking about, Brother Epps? And he's like, y'all the Black Mafia. Now, he says this, and I'm like, what did we let him see at the club? Or what did he overhear? Or who did he talk to? Because I was like, he should know, he should not be saying this. He's like, bruh, I've been around the block. He's like, y'all paid for our plane tickets in cash. Y'all paid for our hotel rooms in cash. He's like, the show I ain't even do my second show, and y'all like come back to the office here and take your money for both shows now in cash. He's like, y'all don't got a checkbook. Matter of fact, y'all don't even have a piece of paper or a receipt book around this joint. He's like, everything y'all do is in cash, and nobody seems too concerned about the books around here. He's like, y'all driving Benzes. Every half of everybody in there is a contest to see which one of your friends can order the most champagne. He's like, you guys are the Black Mafia. And I just laughed and was like, one Mike could say that. And I didn't go no more into it. Mike went on his way, and obviously he went on to do huge things. Right? Huge things.
Big time.
So I'm watching just a couple days ago, scrolling through the tubes, surfing, they call it surfing through the internet, and I come across this post, and it's Mike Epps introducing a guy by the name of Guy Fisher. So for those of you who follow this thing, the name should be familiar, but if you don't know the name, Guy Fisher, among the many things he's famous for, is when the Apollo Theater, believe it or not, in the late 70s, the Apollo Theater and early 80s was struggling. New York was going through its bankruptcy. It was a rough time. Harlem had not started to be gentrified yet, and Guy Fisher actually bought the Apollo. A black man actually owned the Apollo for a brief period of time. Guy Fisher was hooked up on what was called the Council, which was but the most famous member of that New York cartel was a guy by the name of Leroy Nicky Barnes. Right, the infamous, famous
Untouchable.
Mr. Untouchable. So, But so Guy Fisher gets hooked up with Nicky and his crew. They go on and they run up the bag as good as anybody ever did it. Nicky ends up catching the case in '76. Of course, Nicky did business with Eddie. Nicky and my father met actually through another big shot, a guy named Clarence Gale. Gonna have to do some work on Clarence. He was a big shot out of Chicago, but ended up relocating to Detroit part-time. And Nicky, Goldfire, Clarence, big fellas know big fellas, and they all cross circles. Mm-hmm. And anyway, Nicky catches his case. As urban legend would have it, supposedly the other members of the council, not Guy Fisher in particular, but other members of Nicky's crew or cartel, was sleeping with Nicky's woman, driving Nicky's cars, not doing right by Nicky as far as taking care of his legal fees and trying to get uphill because Nicky got hammered and got a ton of time. This is from Nicky's perspective. And from Nicky's perspective, his cartel members were not living up to their part of the deal, so he no longer had to live up to his part of the deal. Long story short, Nicky ended up telling. Nicky, after doing about 5-6 years and hearing about his crew sleeping with his broads and riding his whips and yada yada yada. He decides to reach out to the U.S. Attorney's Office and tells him he can bring down all of Harlem. And he does. Nicky testifies. You heard Eddie Jr. talk about, because Nicky was actually out in Leavenworth with his dad, with the fat man. And his father, Eddie Sr., was working in the kitchen when the feds marched Nicky out wearing the famed ninja outfit.
The ninja suit.
Yeah, don't want to be in the ninja suit.
No.
And Nicky's testimony into bringing down his whole clique, and Guy Fisher in particular. Guy Fisher was charged with an 848, which is kingpin status, and a RICO ongoing criminal activity. That's the 848 is what Milton Henry and Ross Black had maneuvered, because both Pops and Eddie, that 32-man indictment, but Pops and Eddie were being charged with an 848. So had that stood, they would have been looking at life with no parole. Yeah, 848 is not what you want in your life. And that's what they hit Guy Fisher with, was an 848. Kingpin status, mandatory life sentence, no possibility of parole, and a RICO charge. Guy has done it's got to be 30 plus years. He's the first man in state or federal history. He obtained, while he was locked up, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and yes, now he is referred to as Dr. Guy Fisher, and he received his PhD. All kind of tutoring and things like that done while he was incarcerated. Ideal prisoner, but still just being a man's man. And with him, again, with his academic successes, the fact that he had I believe he was another one. I believe how Guy got out. He was another one, along with Harry O., that your ex-president, Mr. Trump, whatever he did with his politics, commuted his sentence, and he came on. And Mike Epps, and shout out to Mike for giving Guy. Mike was doing a concert.
Platform.
Yeah, and he had Guy. In fact, Guy has a YouTube station, so definitely check out the OG station and give him a play. He brought Guy Fisher out on stage, and gave him his roses, and gave him a chance to be heard and get his name back out there. So again, the people who are the stars of pop culture gravitate to the people from this life, from the people from the struggle. And again, I don't know why we like to sometimes pretend like you can separate the black experience in America and not act like the street life and hustlers and guys getting money and all the good and the bad and the ugly that come with that is not a part of the story.
That's right.
But Hollywood's figured it out. BMF, number one show on TV. Every rapper alive wants to
get a little guest appearance or whatnot.
Yeah. Little Melvin, from Baltimore. Remember, he ended up getting a role in The Wire.
For The Wire, yeah.
But these guys, the Harry O's and Guy Fishers, they are, I think, one of our last hopes to be able to get. We try what we can. We try to share our experiences, to tell the youth that, it ain't all that, and we didn't got the money as good as it can be gotten.
Yeah.
These guys like Harry O. and Guy Fisher, they ran up the bag like only a very, very few ever have. But look at the time they had to do,
Yeah, man.
So the wisdom, they not talking, they not rapping about that life and being that guy. They've lived it. And their insights, if anybody's going to be able to get through to the youth of today who are so stuck on getting the bag and being lit and seem like they don't understand how serious them folks is with all those acronyms, FBI, DEA, ATF, how deadly shit, that can tell you what I could have been trying to. It ain't no fun when them people say your name versus the United States government.
That's right.
It gets real. Those commissaries are real. Those $5 a minute phone calls are real. The stress, your loved ones do every day of time with you. And these guys got the real. They got the receipts, as it's called. And I just want to give them, be at least a part of giving these guys their roses, because they do deserve it. So, hell of a story. Look them up online. Again, this was covered. Feds Magazine, Chronicle, Guy Fisher. And again, we, of course, Feds was the first kind of publication. They put us on the cover that really launched this thing, the story of Eddie Jackson. And this is Feds, Volume 4, issue 25, where they chronicle Guy Fisher and what he did. But yeah, he's a part of American history. I mean, first black man to own the Apollo, first prisoner of any race, again, to obtain 4 different degrees while incarcerated: associate, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate.
That's what's up.
Right?
That's what's up.
For real. And from all accounts, just was a guy mentoring the youth all through his time in there. So as they say, he did the time. He didn't let the time do him. So shout out and salute to the OG Guy Fisher, a true real one, for real. And that's what we do here at Big Boss, man.
That's what's up.
What's June 11th?
June 11th, hustle and grind.
Shout out to the homegirl Michelle Moore. Say You Promise Publishing, putting down if you're going to be, if you're in the Detroit area, June the 11th. That is a Saturday, right there at Linden and Livernois. All of the biggest people in the black publishing world and pop culture will be popping through. I know Carl Weber, the guy behind The Family. You guys probably check him out at his show on BET. Numerous other best-selling books. A lot of the authors that you guys follow and whose content is being turned into movies and TV shows will be there. Of course, Big Boss will be there front and center.
That's right. Much like last year.
Yeah. And some of the interviews probably will have to be on our Patreon channel, which is coming
this month. June.
This month. That's right. And what's going to be one of the premieres
of Patreon will be Making of the Mafia,
chronicling how this whole thing began some 10 years ago.
Yes.
Going again from the big homie. I remember speaking of Feds, shout out to Brother Black, Leo, Sister Una at Feds Magazine, the big homie Kevin Childs over at Don Diva, then me and you, and starting in your grandmother's conversation, your grandmother's den. Then we hooked up with the rest of the Detroit contingency. Shout out to Scott Bernstein. Shout out to Al Prophet. Right? Shout out to Brother Ice. Shout out to Brother DJ Taxi. Brother Rich. I mean, so many people.
Yeah.
Were integral.
Nev Mega.
Shout out to Parliament. Shout out to Jen, Dave London, Sergey. Parliament Productions. A lot of people played. Shout out to the homie Eddie Baby, right?
Eddie Baby, of course, and Black Butch.
Tommy Sharp, the Black Dispatch. Forget about it. Brother Jap, another legendary OG whose name we don't speak enough. He's gotten really private in his time, but can't forget the great Dolph.
Can't forget Dolph and
the great Charles Rudolph, one of the charter members. The ones who got this thing popping for real in this town. You cannot forget Charles Rudolph. Shout out to you, Charles. Shout out to you, Rudolph.
And a special shout out to Russell Clayton Jr. for being there, man, during the inception of this thing.
Thank you, Lou, because it would be remiss for us to be talking about the making of the Mafia and this journey. Irony is his dad, Russell Clayton, was one of what we call the charter members. That when Eddie Jackson first put his thing down, it was obviously Eddie, God rest his soul, Eddie's brother, Elijah, who's R.I.P. My father, Courtney the Field Marshal Brown, Ronald 5-0 Garrett, Detroit legend, R.I.P. Charles the Great Dolph Rudolph, and a man by the name of Russell Clayton.
Yeah.
So when we tell this Detroit thing, you did a good thing there, Lou. You can't leave out Russell Clayton.
Yeah.
Russell
Big
Clayton,
Willie.
And then the rest of the crew that's out there too.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Big Willie Kilpatrick, the Weaver brothers, Joe and Reggie.
Garrett
Weaver,
brothers.
Garrett, not just 5-0 Garrett, but Zach and Charlie and the rest of the Garrett family. Bubba Bell. I mean, so many. Inkster Jones, Mr. Kemp.
Yeah.
It's 32 people on the case, so
you'll be reciting them all night, man.
Yeah, but so many along that caused us to be on this journey and unpacking this story. that's why we be having access and insights to a lot of things, because this was the biggest thing that ever happened in this town.
Yeah, man.
And that's with all respect to all the other hell of a crews, and there have been so many. YBI, obviously Meech and Terry, Seal, and Big Ed, obviously Demetrius Holloway. I mean, and all these guys, there's always some connection or run over back
always
to the Jackson,
some spillage. Yes,
back to the Jackson organization, and when it all that happened. So shout out to Otis and his family too. R.I.P. Otis. Yeah, man. So get a chance, check that out. Mike Epps bringing out Guy Fisher. Guy Fisher has his own YouTube channel. I believe it's just called Guy Fisher. Remarkable story. Really good to see guys like him come home, Harry O come home. Our community desperate needs. Both of these guys are really smart men, not just black men. These are really smart men. They've paid their debts in society. They are what our youth, in their heyday, all of what our youth are trying to aspire to be. Many of them, not all, but many of the youth aspire one day to be what these guys have been, so they can really speak a language that hope, and both of these guys are trying to do that. None of them glorify their past. Because it's documented. It is what it is, and to this day, like when Pops was at Cody High, when he got just home,
I'm gonna have to re-release the Kingpin in the Classroom.
Yeah, these guys want to give back, and I'm so blessed to be here.
Yes,
and I've not escaped it. When me and Eddie Baby are together, Eddie Jr. are together, we have not escaped how fortunate we were. Just the grace of God.
Definitely.
That we were able to step away after so long being around the family and doing the things that were being done. And God to have given us the opportunity to step away and go another direction. And not share the same fate that so many of our family and friends did.
Definitely.
So it's deep, but it's a good thing. Again, shout out to the OG, Guy Fisher. Check him out online. Give him some support. We got Hustle and Grind, June the 11th. Shout out to our newest sponsor, Mrs. Boss Boutique, Bags and Bundles, Detroit's premier hair and apparel place for women. So tell the women in your life to come by. Just mention Big Boss, mention Big Lou, mention CB Jr. They're going to give you a nice discount. They're located at 16311 West 7 Mile Road. That's 16311 West 7 Mile Road. That's 7 Mile between Greenfield and Southfield Road. That's Miss Boss Boutique, Bags and Bundles.
That's what's up.
Well, how they catch you, Lou?
Catch me at Flyers Plus Graphics on Instagram. And I have a couple of new things coming up that I'll be sharing with you in the days to come.
Make sure you do that, and all that. He don't just share his knowledge. People trying to get their thumbnail game up, trying to get their YouTube game up.
Definitely.
Websites.
If you need your video needs, you name it, large format printing, vehicle wraps, we do it all.
That's what we do. The hustlers do what?
Come on, man, we hustle.
That's what we do. So appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys are please hitting that like, share, and subscribe button and that notification button. Channel is growing. Milestone just reached. About to knock down another milestone because we have many milestones to go before we get to where we're trying to get.
Yes.
And we won't stop, can't stop, as Puff said.
That's what's up.
You know what I'm saying? So it's your man, CB Jr., with his man, Big Lou, Big Boss Filmworks, Motown Monster Podcast. Holla at you, man.
Peace.
it was just time to really tell a great untold Detroit story, because it kind of covers Detroit at its zenith.
Very interesting story.
We decided that we were going to make a movie.
All right, Rich Rossi with you with Motown Mafia. I'm with Courtney.
Louis Stevens.
Louis Stevens, Courtney Brown.
Courtney Brown Jr.
And Alan Al Prophet Bradley.
And this is an entrepreneurial, inspirational story too, because again, you know, I'm a real estate retail guy. You know, that's what my skill set is. But I'm a businessman, so I was like, you know, we're gonna do it. You know, sometimes when you got a dream, you won't have all the answers on how you're gonna do what you're gonna do.
What made this one unique was not so much the crime, but the intertwining with Detroit's history and the Motown era and kind of the economic decline of Detroit. And it's really the story of a family. And from some perspectives, it's has a happy ending, like you said. For others, it didn't have a happy ending.
Right.